Good morning, and this is the crypto day morning with today's date coming in that of Wednesday, the 12th of December, 2018. All bets, trades, and of the like within one's own risk and their own reward. And it's very early, 6 a.m. Eastern Time, so one of the very few times I'm actually doing it when it's still technically morning in London, England. At least I presume it's not a 6 hour difference, it's five. And it's 11 o'clock a.m. right now in many parts of Europe. So then let's get on with the charts. We'll take a look at Bitcoin. And well, two reasons why I'm doing this video so early. Number one, I got up early. And number two, there wasn't much to trade this morning. So we'll go over some of the key trades and let's go over this. So weekly time frame for Bitcoin, obviously breaking down below that support. This is period number 4 since the decent size red candle move in here. It's had since this big move is you can draw a down line in here, descending triangle more than anything. Can we see such here? I guess you got a downtrend line in here, even a downtrend line from here to here, here to here. Overall, the bias is still negative within the market. This is correctionary move number 2 within the 18. It's not at the 18 today or even at all yesterday. So you can look at it as two different things. I'm trying to find the story. Number one is still a continuation of correctionary move at the lower end. And the reason why is because it's still pretty much at the lower end of the support area for the last few days. So that's the one. And at number 2, attempt to get away from correctionary move and move into a downtrend. So it hasn't really done that stage yet. We take a look at the 4-hour term time frame. Since the point A high, point B low, you have some sideways consolidation establishing resistance here. So this is going to be big for today because there's going to be a possible reason for markets to go up higher. So how high does it go? There's basically 3 levels. And that is if it gets above the 18, level 1, previous high. Level 2, lower high, Fibonacci retracement, noticeable high, 61.8% coming in somewhere near the 3,500. Basically this high, I'm not going to calculate it, but it's 36.42. We're going to divide it by the low of 32.94, exponent 0.618, and then multiply the low. It would come in somewhere near in here, around 35. So that's a potential level of resistance. And the third one is a noticeable break above, which is also a statement, and that it's looking to revert the trend and all that kind of stuff in there. So then, with that being said, let's take a look at the hour and talk about why this possibly could be having a break higher. It's gotten above this level of resistance in here at 33.89 ballpark area. The 18 average, it got to it here at 2 o'clock in the morning, and it held it for 2 consecutive hours in a row above the newly rising period average, and the last hour, the 5 o'clock hour, getting above it. And we see now only 5 minutes and change into the session that it is already broken above to highs not seen now since, and this, I mean, it doesn't sound great, but December the 10th at noon. So it's making day and a half highs. And I mean, you're looking at the short-term analysis, that's really what it comes down to. But from the point A high, point B low, how much is it going to retrace? I mentioned here about 3,500, actually about 3,510-ish or so. 3,506 would be an interesting key area. And then the key high before that, is it able to break out? Question mark. When we look at this on the 15-minute time frame, whenever you and this is just technical analysis doing what it does. For this level of resistance was established, but it was also the area you'd be thinking, because when you're at this low at 3,300, and then you have this, and then you're asking, well, where's it going to go? If I put a sell order, for example, say my buy order filled at 3,300. What's the very next short-term level of resistance? You're like, somewhere around 33.80, and that's what it hit. But after it hit such an event, it managed to match the main lows and stay above this key low, thus staying within the 18 average. at the midnight session last night, getting above. But key thing, finding support at the 18, lifting above to a new high, and then you retest the area, but you do so while this time you successfully correct the 18 spectacularly. And I'll define spectacularly because of how much it stayed within the 18 highs, never close to the lows. And then when it broke above it here, it's been having some nice significant moves along the way. We can see on the 5-minute time frame, hit resistance, come back, hit resistance, come back, and then it's had a decent leg lower ever since. Moving on next to some altcoins, Komodo. I managed to get my coins back on Binance, meaning when these prices got really high, I was able to sell the vast majority, wishing I would have sold them all, although I did sell over 80-ish% maybe. And then I bought them on Bittrex, which had a cheaper price, but there's wallet maintenance until the end of the week. And therefore, I could not transfer. I had to wait for the price action to become equal. That happened yesterday. So now I have the amount of Binance or Komodo that I intend to have on each of the two exchanges. As far as the chart is concerned, we got a beautiful symmetrical triangle in here. You have this low, and then you have this high. It comes down to the 18 average of lows, making that of a higher low from this one. And then it has 2 days hit, going below this high, and now back down again to the 18 average of lows, but technically higher among such. To keep the pattern of higher lows and lower highs afloat on Binance, this market needs to rally pretty soon, but it's got to stop going up near 1800. And it just shows within symmetricality that you're in an indecision mode, and very soon the lower highs, higher lows has to come to an end, and you can expect a decent sized move to one direction or another. And of course you only see so much on this chart, so let me just put the Bittrex one on, which has a longer history, but they're both at the 16 handle right now. So therefore, decent size move going higher could potentially mean getting it above this 18 average of highs and filling some of this empty space. And just like I stated before, what kind of move are you going to have? And I can even add another one to it. You could have like a half-ass move, something maybe only up to 29.30, but it would still be a move above the 18, and it would be a leg higher regardless. It's just that would be the most simplistic lowest form that lowest form, not simplistic. And then do you do like a 61A, maybe you come close to the previous high, which would be in the 40s or something, and then previous high, and then possibly new highs. All of those can come out on the break. But if you break through this level of support, then maybe we're talking about coming back down to previous lows, and that would be a loss of a little more than half of its value from where it stands. Next up is PivX, and this is something I'm highly considering, and I've already done this already, to start accumulation mode. I've tripled my holdings from what I've had before, which means I have 3 times more than what a minimum bet is, plus a little fraction more. I'll explain that very soon. As I got into PivX at around the 40,000 number, so it's had its moves, and I believe that there's a good chance that this coin is going to do well. I'm going to use the exact same reason, pretty much almost the exact same reason, for why I'm playing Komodo, as this is something that I've talked to within people on the comment section in here, and from what I gathered back in last March of 2017, that this is a coin I think is going to do very well over the long term. So the prices to me are very depressed. What I hope intends to happen is that it actually breaks down below this level of support as Bitcoin goes down below 3, and it can have a decent sized move lower. I'm going to talk something interesting. I'm going to put this short-term chart on here. Not much going on here on the 4-hour and hour. But whenever you have these interesting sells that happen on specific sites, you don't see it on Bittrex, but if we put the Binance PivX site up now, and an interesting move happening many hours ago, I guess was too greedy. Oh, I got a buy order that got hit. And given the fact that this is something I want to accumulate, I kind of missed out on an opportunity, to say the least. As I had 2 buy orders in, I had one at about 1400, which obviously hit, and then one in at about 200, which obviously missed. Way too greedy there, but congratulations to anybody who had buy orders at 1,000, 800, and definitely at around 550 in the near the low ends of this, because that's instant profit. But one thing that I wonder about this is when you have the situation of a move, is this somebody, obviously somebody with a large amount of PivX wanted to get out? Are they saying something in advance that, hey, wait a second, this thing is going to have a decent leg lower? I think this a few times. CMT was another one that I thought this with, as it had a very similar move to such just recently, and it's all the way down to 750 right now. So we can see this is somebody who sold really big. Since then, the decline has come into play. So something to keep of note, given that I have tripled my ownership of such, and the reason why I'm a little more is because I got one nice buy-in, so I got a little bit more from that point, is that when I see these types of moves and I don't have much like I do on PivX, I hope, because I want to buy I want to triple quad 5x my ownership of it still. At least 3x it. Make it worth 3 times more, which means, and this is cyber miles, but if I get the lower prices, especially if I'm able to sell some TUSD near the 3,000 Bitcoin mark, then I can probably use that as part of my big accumulation for the PivX. Now, adding a few more codes on Bittrex, I'm gonna talk about 8. I got into this. I got into it at 635, and I've already had one sell order already come into place, as I would have bought 635. I would have bought in obviously here somewhere, and then I had a sell order hit at around 750. So right off the bat, I've gotten one transaction. The next one was Swarm City token. I got into this one at about 4,000 Satoshi, and I've already sold at the 46 handle. I liked how after having this amazing move on December the 7th, it managed to come back to the correction area field. So this is the area, like I talked about, where it needs to hold. It hasn't confirmed doing so yet. But in looking at some of the moves in here, it's just something that I consider, you know what, it just might be ready to go. And then within this little bit of volume here, then the spike of volume here, and then the consistent volume that has happened thereafter it, I just couldn't help but to enter into the position again. I got in at 4, selling at 46, which happened just in here. So therefore I would have bought down in this bottom end area here, and now I'll be waiting to buy back at 4,000. I'm going to put this in order same spot that I did before. I've already sold at 46, so I'm going to look for another 15% move, and this is the lowest size moves that I look for from a last trade perspective. But what it seems that I've been doing over the last 24 or so hours is something that I call short selling. And I don't mean short selling by betting for it to go down, although I kind of am in a sense to a degree doing such. And I guess you could call it and then the opposite with the buy. Now, short selling means is, and I'm going to bring a chalkboard up for such, the act of selling earlier than intended. And then the opposite, the act of buying earlier than intended. For everything's always worth 1, for every 1 unit it is worth. With the low volatility, I'm looking for a 15% move. So when it's worth 1.15, I'm selling. And therefore, you can say about the opposite, that around 0.86, in that area, I'm a buyer. So I've been just looking around. Anything I can find that this is 0.9, I would just been buying it. Anything where this is it's only like 10% gain for that matter, 11%. I've been doing it because not many of the markets are moving right now. One place I did it is in that of ELF, and it's got a nice setup right now on its single hour time frame. But I last bought these lows at like 3,100 low change, and then it gets up to like 3,200 mid change. That's like a 5% move. Really, I sold this? Let me take a look at where my last buy was, because it had to have been near this low if I sold this. And it was, but I don't know if I accidentally bought a bit more than I intended to do, so it shouldn't have worked out. But because I just sold now, really at the highs, at least for the last hour anyway, if it has a good break, then that's what I want, because it has to have a decent move from this point forward in order for me to want to sell, because right around here, it's going to, if it goes to 32.93, it's probably going to at least make a move to even some higher areas, so I'm going to be happy about it there. And if this is a failed breakdown, well, now I'm going to be buying at levels, well, let's just bring this up to the 4 hour. We'll be talking about buying it into down in this area here. On the daily chart, just for a market like this, there's a situation where you have a decent decline, straight down move, correctionary move, which has successfully held the 18 average. I like to see this not only rally, but rally on high volume or decent sized volume, getting above the 18 average of highs over 3,500. Has maintained a neutrality point of this market, range bound between about 3,000 up to about 3,800, and we'll say 3,800. And the statement here is clear. It's made this decent sized move. It rejected it, only back down to the 18 for now. So if that gets rid of a few people getting some profit taking in there, a couple weak people, or when I say a couple, a low percentage of weak people, then oftentimes you're just going to see decent moves because of that. But in the failed move situations, see it weakness above here, you'd be looking, of course, for another leg lower below the previous support handle near 28. Loom was another one that I decided to buy earlier than I should. I bought it at $12.94 after I sold it near this high before. Obviously was looking to get a sell a little bit lower along the way. And we'll see. This is something I would have done in here as it was correcting within the 18. I missed out, of course, on buying down towards here. But as I look at this again, if this thing, just in this area here, is able to have a decent sized move, then I can get a nice little sell here at a much decent price, or a much higher price than normal. And if this thing breaks down from this point, then I'm not going to want to buy until at least at about 11.50 or lower, so I can put a buy at the previous low at 11. So that's what I like about this entry point. So I decided to buy that at that point, which I'd like to get a better discount. I'd rather sell for 20% up and like 17% down than I would 10% up and 9% down kind of deal, because the profits are better. And the next one that I did, I wanted to buy this lower, close to the 180 handle from before, and I got this at 196. And I've been looking at this for the last few days. It's like, when are you gonna break down? So I just thought, you know what, I'll take the buy in now. If I could put a sell order here near this previous high, we're looking there, it's about a 20% move, so that's decent enough for where I put a sell order. And if it gets above that, then I'd have a nice little sell order come in near going towards the 300s thereafter. But if this thing now breaks down from here, then I really see this coming back down to the like 135 up to the 160ish or so congestion area, or previous low. So that's a spot where I'm thinking, okay, well, I can put a buy order in at, say, around low 160s. That's about a 20% move. So, you know, decent time, I think, to be a buyer. And then if this is either going to be a coin that works or a coin that doesn't, And anything that works is anything that gives me positive results. And if it continues long term to go straight down, I have a strategy that I've talked about before where I could be saying in a year from now that this market is down to 80 Satoshi and I'm profiting on it. Because when you have moves that go up and down, back and forth, that makes it very easy to do so. What I would like to see happen if it's going to go to 80 Satoshi is maybe first next have a move up to maybe 500 or 600 and then work its way down. And that's not asking too much for the crypto markets to say, yeah, can you go up 3 times before you go down 8 times and stuff like that? That's not asking too much to have that kind of volatility. Thank you for tuning in to this morning's very early video. I started the video at 6 a.m. Now it's 6:30 and yet 20 minutes is the duration. I paused the tape a few times here and there. And have yourself a great day. Bye-bye.